Powered by Righteous Media.
Welcome to Independent Americans. Welcome to episode 369. This Friday, November 7th, I am your host, Paul Rieckhoff. Happy Friday, everybody. It is Football Friday. We're going to need it this Friday, especially. We got a great show. Our friend Joy Taylor is here, who is perfect for this moment. And the news keeps coming. The shutdown continues now in its 37th day. Fuck that shit. The American military has struck another boat off the coast of Venezuela. They took 24 hours off, but now they're back. And right before that, a vote to stop those strikes and stop Trump in the Senate failed. There it was, right on cue. They're doing strikes now almost every day. They skipped a day, but right after the Senate failed to stop them, they were right back at it. And they're continuing to do whatever they want with the most powerful military the world has ever seen, and nothing is stopping them. I think nothing will stop them from doing more. Airports are now getting shut down. That's awesome. We're 3 days away from Veterans Day. Tomorrow is the final weekend of football for my boys and the teams I am coaching, which is good. Amherst College is playing Williams College this weekend for another installment that started in 1884, which means Thanksgiving is coming soon. But it is Friday. It is Friday football. Joy Taylor is here. You are here. I am here. And now is most definitely a time to stay vigilant. Helping us stay vigilant, my friend, a podcaster, sports powerhouse, cultural expert, a powerful voice for many causes and issues, a person who pulls no punches and takes no shit. The great and powerful Joy Taylor is back on Independent Americans. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you, Paul. The great and powerful. I'm introducing myself as that moving forward. The great and powerful Joy Taylor. That's a great intro.
You are. I think you are powerful. Like, I watch all what you do and all of what you say, a lot of what you say. And I think in this time of like a lack of realness and a discussion about authenticity, you've been really powerful. And I'm going to tell you why. Somebody taught me something once about powerful vulnerability. And I think you've been exercising that in a really brave and courageous way. And I think it's a moment for that. So I want to celebrate it.
Thank you. The vulnerability thing does not come naturally to me, which I'm trying to emphasize with everything that I've been saying lately. I'm just not a naturally vulnerable person. Actually, I don't know if that's true. I am a naturally vulnerable person, and the world has beat it into me that I shouldn't be vulnerable. So therefore, I'm not vulnerable anymore. So I'm trying to self-soothe through my public conversations, my lack of vulnerability, because vulnerability is necessary to connect with people. And I enjoy connections, but it is very difficult when you have walls up that prevent you from the connection through vulnerability. But vulnerability is very scary. It is actually maybe the scariest thing to me.
I think that is so important because especially for so many folks that are in our audience, cops, firefighters, veterans, vulnerability is scary. And also, I've talked about this for decades in my work around mental health. It also can be dangerous to their profession, and it can be for anyone else, right? Like putting this out there. But I always tell people, you're asking a vet or a cop to come forward and say that he or she has mental health issues, but that could endanger their ability to carry a gun. And that's their livelihood. And that stigma has been such a barrier. We're coming into Veterans Day next week. You've been a great supporter of veterans, how I first met you. I want to get into that. I want to get into kind of all of the lack of powerful vulnerability coming out of the White House. This last couple of days has been a really good example. I don't even want to call it toxic masculinity. I just want to call it bad masculinity that's been coming out of people like Pete Hegseth and J.D. Vance and Trump and others. And I want to pick it all apart because you sit at this really powerful intersection of sports and culture and politics. But let me start by asking you the question I ask everyone, Joy. Where are you in the world on this fabulous Football Friday? And how are you?
In Los Angeles, and I'm doing good, actually. It's been, even saying that I'm doing good has taken me all year to be able to say without a full wash of anxiety coming over me because I think all year I've just been waiting for like, you know what I mean? I've just been kind of doing one of these with
Yeah.
the guard up all year. And yeah, I'm good. I'm actually really enjoying this time. I've gotten to travel a bunch. I've gotten to see my family. I've gotten to, go see my nephew play, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a wild year for everyone, and I'm really grateful that I like have my feet on the grounds right now because there definitely was a point this year where they were not. And yeah, so I'm good. I'm
And
actually
doing
I'm happy.
doing the kind of work you do, I mean, you were on TV every single day for years and years and years. And you're at this intersection of all of it where breaking news is happening and people are arguing and you're getting feedback from all sides. I mean, I am in a much smaller zone than you are, but I don't think people appreciate, frankly, how hard that shit is. I'm never going to cry boo-hoo for folks who get paid to go on television and do all that, but it is, especially now, it's a dangerous environment, right? The hate that comes at you is something I don't think folks understand, and I think it's kind of a conversation that's not spoken out loud. I was at MSNBC yesterday, and off camera, a guest and host will talk about security and how they get from the building to the car. And when the lights go off, people have the real conversation, and you're a person I think that has a real conversation both ways. But it's scary being a public figure. We saw yesterday Congressman Jared Golden is leaving Congress because of the threats on his family. But that is a reflection of how I think dangerous and toxic a lot of our culture is right now, right?
Yeah, it's changed from, when I started in the business, there was always some level of security. Like, when I worked in radio, there was always a front desk, you know, person. You couldn't just walk into the radio station. You couldn't just walk into this TV station. Obviously there's expensive equipment in there, but there's also just people who develop these obsessions with public figures. And, there's just, you need to have security. We would have gated parking and all those things. And that was, I mean, I'm looking good, but I've been in the business a long time.
Mhm.
That was way back in the day. Now I mean, for a multitude of reasons, it's become a real choice to be in the public eye because you're going to face at the very least hate on the internet. Like at the bare minimum, no matter who you are, whether you're a beautiful woman, whether you are a politician, whether you're an artist, whatever it is, like an athlete, you're just gonna deal with people who are vicious on the internet. That's just a given.
Mm.
But now, through the full lack of accountability that exists on these platforms and just in our society as well, people feel very emboldened. I mean, you saw what happened to the president of Mexico. Like, what? How can someone walk up to the president of Mexico and grab her? Like, that is like, where's security? Like, what's going on here?
If folks didn't see it, the president of Mexico was sexually assaulted on a street, right? Which kind of forced a conversation on the Mexican public and hopefully on the world about how commonplace that still is, right? And the president of Mexico
The
was sexually
president
assaulted.
of Mexico.
Yeah, yeah.
Not just, like that's just, and not that that blows my mind that that happens, because obviously as a woman, I'm fully aware that that happens all the time. It's happened to me. But what? So, people just feel very emboldened to behave however they want to. And what's scary now is it's actually physically manifesting. Like before, it was just on the internet, which is bad and can be torturous for people. But you didn't feel unsafe. Now people are actually actionizing is that a word? They're
I
putting
like it.
action,
I
they're
like it.
putting, they're
Works.
putting action to their threats, which is really, it is scary.
Yeah, I mean, it's I always look at everything through a national security prism. And I think people forget that every time Americans are fighting with Americans online or in the streets or in any other way, our enemies are celebrating. And this is happening. Anytime I post an opinion about anything, I get shit from all sides, right? And it's easy to kind of put your head down and say, "All right, I'm just going to be a Democrat. I'm going to be a Republican." But I have always tried to call balls and strikes, and I come at it from an independent perspective. The Mamdani factor, right? The Mamdani, Cuomo, Sliwa cauldron of New York City is maybe one of the most toxic, radioactive, and dangerous things. I've gotten shit from people that I thought were relatively reasonable, just shit posting me on my Instagram. And I would call them offline and be like, yo, we've known each other. You can't just call me. Like, you can't just text me. You're going to shit post me on my Instagram comment section. But it's like, yeah, but you said this about Cuomo. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like, we're friends. You're not supposed to just shit post. Have you lost your fucking mind? And I think, frankly, a lot of people have lost their mind. We talked to Jim Vanderhey yesterday about how the algorithms are cooking your brain. But I really think people are underestimating, especially if you're not out in the open, how dangerous it is, right? And how many people that were otherwise kind of reasonable are getting sucked into this. And it's easy to understand why people get sucked into extremism on the left, on the right. But that on-ramp is pretty quick, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot going on. The algorithm is probably the biggest part, right? Because that is where we spend our time, right? We're all guilty of doom scrolling. I notice when my algorithm is cooked, when it's like 5 or 6 of the same topic adjacent coming at me. And I am thankfully someone who can put the phone down pretty easily. So it keeps me from truly getting sucked into these things. And also, I'm just a fact-based person. So if I see something and I'm like, that's interesting, like, I didn't know that, I immediately go look it up. And if it's not true, I'm like, oh, okay, like, not true, actually. So I am that kind of person. But most people do not do that. And whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. I mean, I'm a trained journalist, so I don't want to participate in the resharing of bad information. That's just something that not only just find very disturbing about our society and for the people that are supposedly looked up to as experts in spaces, but also I just think you look dumb. Like, it's my nightmare to like reshare some AI video. Like, like that to me is so fucking embarrassing. Like, that's a nightmare to me personally. So the algorithm is absolutely cooking people's brains. It's a fact, and it sucks people in. There's, to your point, the on-ramp is like very easy. You're like looking into milk alternatives, and all of a sudden you're on this whole other side of the internet and your personality changes. For me, I think what I would like beg of people right now is to stop making things your whole personality. Like, if nothing else, I just come from the era of being afraid of being a fucking nerd. And I don't mean like the smart kid nerd. I mean the fucking nerd. Like, you remember the person who was like, you're just annoying. We can't quite put our finger on it, but you're fucking annoying. It's
Yeah,
you.
he's the vice president of the United States now. He's the
Yes.
vice president of the United
So
States.
lame. I'm not a lame. And I know this about myself. But man, you can reprogram yourself into a lame pretty easily. So what I would beg of people is stop making things your whole personality, right? If you're into whatever the fuck you're into, we used to do this with like CrossFit. Remember when CrossFit was like at its apex? And if you were a CrossFitter, we would fuck with you. Like, can you do CrossFit if you don't tell everyone you do CrossFit? Right? And we
Yeah.
would make fun of these people, and in a healthy way, like not in a like beat you up way, but in a like, hey, is there anything else about your personality that's interesting besides the fact that you do CrossFit? You go work out really hard and yank your shoulder out of a socket and then eat a donut. Like, love that for you. But is there anything else you do that's cool? And everyone has like attached themselves to these identities. I'm this, I'm that. And it's like, great, you found your tribe. But there's other things in life. You still have to go outside and deal with people who have different opinions. You still have to go work with people who come from different places. You are not the all-powerful czar of planet Earth. You're not just going to reprogram how the world works. So have your opinions and have your things that you're into, but also be open to developing different areas of your personality. Like, if I can't appeal to people's intelligence, maybe just be cool.
This is exactly why I'm so grateful you're here, so we can unpack all this. I want to pivot, Joy, into what I think is today's top topic. I always say, there are issues out there. If you're not angry, you're not paying attention. And I thought a lot about today, and you especially coming to join us, and how I want to frame this. But I think I've got a pretty clear idea of what I want to focus on today. I think it's very, very important, and it's today's top topic. Here it is, Joy. We can't get a fucking Friday off. We can't get any time off from this collision of America in chaos. It's the political division, domestic violence, unauthorized war with Venezuela, National Guard in the streets, ICE snatching people up. The government shutdown is now messing up airports. But there's another underlying part of this that I want to dig into with you is, and then there's sports, right? Which kind of for a long time, maybe especially now, feels like it's never been better. We get to Friday and I'm like, okay, there's a big game on. I hope Trump doesn't fucking blow it up with some crazy shit, right? But we do, I think, really run hard into our sports now because A, it's so good. B, there's so much of it. C, there's also the algorithm, the rhythms and the betting companies and all of this. It's a rare example of shared community, but it also, I feel like, is now also starting to show the signs of the fractures in our society. The shutdown is not gonna is gonna impact the Veterans Day activities at NFL games. There's the gambling scandal now with Chauncey Billups. And there's violence, there's shootings, there's domestic violence, there's radical political people, right? We can talk about Harrison Butker or whatever else and Charlie Kirk. But there's another issue that maybe I want to start with if I can, because I think you're uniquely positioned. We've talked a lot about the situation facing young women also, but also young men in this country who I think are caught up in all of what we're talking about at a time when coming out of the White House and especially the Department of Defense, it's like the worst version of that CrossFit culture on steroids and twisted with some crack. I don't even know how to explain it. But, you know, all of this is intertwined: race, class, equality, and especially mental health. And you've been outspoken and so brave in sharing your personal stories about trauma and mental health. And this week, I don't want this to get lost. Cowboys defensive end Marshawn Nealon died by suicide at age 24 this week. Cowboys second round draft pick, 56 overall. He had a touchdown on Monday night against the Cardinals when he recovered a block punt in the end zone. But he lost his mom last year. Folks said they didn't know he was struggling. I know this story so well from the veterans community. Right? This guy looks like he was doing great. I can't believe it happened, and we lost him. You are very close to all of this. Your brother played in the league and is a Hall of Famer. Your nephew is crushing it right now. He's a bright spot on my son's New York Jets. We went to training camp in part to go see him. I want to just put all that on the table to start it, but I think you're in a really unique position to understand it. What do you make of it? Especially the fact that the world is on fire and we got this great sports shit happening over here. And maybe they've been separated, but Stephen A. Smith put a point on it too, and he said Trump is coming, and some people reacted. But I think he's right. I think he's right that all the things that Trump is doing aren't going to stop at the water's edge. ICE can do raids in the parking lot of NFL games, right? Family members of NBA players may get swept up in this. They're going to have something to say too. They're not just going to shut up and dribble. And maybe in some ways, sports can be a backstop for our society in understanding how fucked up all this shit is. But that was a lot to put out there. Your thoughts, please, my friend.
Well, I'll speak to the sports part first and then the mental health part. I think that sports, well, I don't think that. It's a fact that sports has always played an integral role in contextualizing the times and presenting opportunities for change and actually being the vessel for international messaging and change. And so the whole shut up and dribble, the whole idea that athletes or sports is exempt from politics, anyone who says that, I just assume doesn't know how to read books because it is historically inaccurate. Sports has always played a part in social justice, in advancing rights, in speaking on things that are happening in the world, in breaking barriers. Jackie Robinson, have you heard of him? It's nonsense that sports would not play a role in the times that we are currently existing in. It is, and I refuse to have it like conversations that lack the basic level of historical context and intellectual factors to go back and forth on things. And so if you believe that sports is exempt from this, you're just like, love ya, as human to human, but you're not smart enough to have a conversation with me. So you got to go read a couple books. I've got some, I'll send them to you. But it's just not true. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jim Brown, Like, I can go on and on and on and on and on and on. Jesse Owens. Like, we haven't even gotten to the women yet. So it's just sports will play a role in what's happening right now. It will. And it has, and it's going to continue because sports is just a microcosm of society. Athletes are human beings. To your point, they have families. They have businesses. They vote. They have taxes to pay. They have family members that are on, like, use the Affordable Care Act. Like, just because you're an athlete doesn't mean that you're a trillionaire. Like, it just doesn't, all of these things, these ideas that people have about sports being sort of this like floating orb of escape. It's just not true. And I understand for a lot of people, sports is an escape, but that doesn't make it real. That doesn't make it a real thing. Sports has always played a role in what's happening in the times, and it will continue because it is a microcosm of society. So that's one. So there is no escape. We'll have moments of, solace where we forget, our favorite team scores a touchdown and we just, we can have these moments of joy. But at the end of the day, sports is going to play a role. And if you don't think that it should, you just don't understand how the world works. And that's your problem, not everyone else's. It's always played a role. As far as the mental health goes, people are sad. People are sad. And sad can also be very quickly turn to angry. I've been both of those things for most of this year. I've been very, very fucking angry. I've been very sad. And because I've struggled with suicidal thoughts my entire life and depression my entire life, and growing up as being born in 1987, and having conversations about mental health was, like, to your point, if you said something like this, like you're going straight to the loony bin or something, these terms that we would use that are so, dismissive of what has always been an experience for humans since we have existed. There's so much, right? Like, it's the algorithm, it's politics, it's war, it's all the terrible things that humans are still doing to each other all over the world. It's the economy. It's people not connecting with each other, so no one is dating like normal humans used to date. Like, there's just so much happening. And I think, obviously we can talk about it from a woman's perspective, but to speak to what's happening with men right now, because it is a thing, you have like adolescence, you have this, toxic masculinity being like pushed on everyone, this anti-feminism movement, the male loneliness epidemic. And there's really nowhere to go to everyone's just like, I just want to get out of it, and it's hard. It's hard for people. And it's not an excuse to be a terrible person. It's not an excuse to be violent. And it's not an excuse to ignore how you're feeling. But I do understand it. It's fucking hard right now. And it's not getting easier. And our leaders are fucking morons. And they're terrible people. And they're not being held accountable by any of the systems that we had in place to hold them accountable. And not that they've ever been good people, but at some point, at least they had decorum. And the problem that I have with everything that's being presented to everyone is there is no decorum. People talk about this all the time with me about like politicians and like your favorite politician and all this like weird shit. I'm like, these are fucking people that we hire to do jobs. They're no different. They just fucking do their job. I don't need to like you. I want you to shut the fuck up, represent all of us, and do your job. That's it. Right? But all of this rhetoric and this fucking poison that's pushed on everybody is just making everyone sad. And it's hard. And when you already have trauma, when you're already dealing with a very hyper, I don't even want to call it masculine, but just like a job like playing in the NFL, where mental health obviously is starting to become a conversation. But yeah, the story of veterans or athletes or just anyone who's like, they were doing great. Of course you thought they were doing great. They have to overcompensate for the sadness and the pain that they're feeling in order to present. And that's exhausting on top of everything else that's happening. So yeah, to not give any solves, but that's like, that's what's happening right now. And it's really heartbreaking.
Thank you for that. I think it's in many ways, I think it's the everything. It's the central conversation to what's happening in America, because it is this crisis of loneliness and isolation and sadness and anger doesn't confine itself to a gender or a geography. And it's also not accidental, right? I mean, there are technology companies, there are foreign actors, there are others that want to see this happen in America, especially, right? Where kids are scared not only of school shootings, but of ICE agents, of planes crashing. You know, I had parent teacher conferences and we talk about anxiety. I'm like, you know, my kids, frankly, like comparatively, their anxiety is pretty low, but the baseline for this generation of kids that grew up in COVID is fucking insane, right? Like, would you not have anxiety if you were them too, right? I mean, we had anxiety over AIDS and nukes, right? And then, you know, you had 9/11, then you had COVID, but this is like such a higher level. And you touched on something that I think is really important, which I've talked a lot about with veterans, which is this idea of talking about it in a way that understands that talking about it is strength, not weakness, right? And that's when, coming back to the powerful vulnerability piece, I say this a lot to people who know me. Football saved my life. When I was in high school, I was in a really fucked up situation in my family. My mother was struggling with mental illness. My family didn't know how to deal with it. I was lonely. I was isolated. I was super fucking angry. I was suicidal, and I had football. I had football, and football saved my life. I had Coach Hunter, I had this crew, and I remember my father sitting with me on the bed once. I don't even know if I've ever said this publicly, where he knew that I was fucking hurting. And he looked at me and he said, I know what you're thinking right now. And he said, just remember, if you do what you're thinking about doing, your mother's going to be in a rubber room for the rest of her life. And I was like, he made it about more than about me. And for some reason that got through to me, but I was angry, I was violent, and I could take it out on the football field. But most of all, I had hope and connection, which I've learned from the veterans world. Hope and connection is what people need. So Veterans Day next week is maybe in some ways a model, because we come out of the woodwork, like for homecoming and Thanksgiving and New Year's Eve and some military thing kind of all mixed together. And it's really powerful, but less and less people are coming every time, in part because I think they feel like everything is dangerous, everything is politicized. One of the things that Trump has done that I think is brilliant and nefarious and powerful is he's gotten into the culture. Like, if you think about it, he's going to have UFC on the lawn at the White House. He fucked up the Ryder Cup, right? And like that became so toxic, right? He made a really smart strategic decision not to go to the 9/11 memorial, but to go to Yankee Stadium and get a photo op with Aaron Judge and the Yankees. Like, they know that the culture is a part of it. And I think the Democrats have been behind it. Mamdani is the exception. Mamdani knows about Bing Bong and the Knicks and understanding hip hop and all the other components that make us connect. But I want to put a point on something particularly, Joy, with you, which is, what do you think's going to happen with Trump and sports? Because he's not going to stop. He's going to put UFC on the line. He's picking strategically the overwhelmingly, testosterone. He's not going to go to a WNBA game, right? He's picking the things that fold into him, and this is part of the mastery. Is he has owned Joe Rogan. He has owned the CrossFit culture. They knew CrossFit is a political base, right? And they got to that. So where do you think this goes? And do you see anybody on the sports spectrum who can emerge and be a powerful voice? We've seen so many voices recently step forward and I think crack through. Where do you think this goes? And who do you think will step up that we should watch as a leader that can inspire us and maybe bring us together on some level?
Look, if you do CrossFit, I love it for you. Right? Like, lots of people do CrossFit. It's not a tie to being an asshole. I just want to say, I love that you work out. It was just an example. I feel like we're
It's a good one, though. It's a good one.
Killing the CrossFit folk. I love it for you guys. Okay. I can't do it, but I love it for you guys. Yeah. You know what? I have this conversation with a lot of people. I've had this conversation a lot lately because I am a history nerd. And I think that history is so important because it tells us why we're here or how we got here. And it also is a warning to not repeat things, you would think. It's an interesting question because I don't know. I'm seeing it a lot with art, right? During the civil rights movement and the Vietnam War, art and sports played such an important role in galvanizing people, in introducing thought to people in using people that we idolize and we thought we wanted to be like, were saying really powerful things and risking their careers in order to do it, right? I don't know. I don't know. There's been plenty of people who have spoken out. There's been plenty of athletes. There's been plenty of artists who have said who they're voting for, who have donated millions of dollars, who are doing the right things. And they deserve to be commended for that because that is important. What I fear about this time right now is the bag is so important. And listen, I like money. Okay. I'm not guilty. You see how I like to travel. Okay. I like to make money. So I get it. But what scares me, I guess, where's punk rock? You know, where's the people who are like, fucking take it all? I'm standing on this. And there are some, but yeah, we had them real motherfuckers before. Like Muhammad Ali was like, put me in jail before I go do this shit. And at the time, it was not popular. What we look at now and think, damn, that's cool as fuck. Like he stood on business. It wasn't popular. They didn't let him play his sport. They took his titles. Like there were consequences. And yeah, like, and I want to be, I don't want to be a hypocrite about this. Like I want to say things that are risky. And I feel like I do, but I'm not, I'm not a professional athlete. I do what I can. And so to answer your question, we need the Kurt Cobain. We need the Bob Marleys. We need the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars. We need the Muhammad Alis. Like, we need the Billie Jean Kings. We need people to really believe fully in like what the fuck is going on right now. But what I don't know is going to happen is during those times we still participated in hero worship, and we don't do that anymore. Celebrities are not what they once were. There's so many different ways to be famous. There's so many different factions of things that you can follow. There, and it's so quickly to move on from somebody. Oh, this is my favorite streamer. I don't like them anymore. I'm going to move on to this thing. Like our attention spans are so short that I don't even know if it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of comfort, right? I mean, like in a time like this, it's if you're a professional athlete, you will make a much higher, base income, league minimum than back in the day, right? And I do think, like, I kind of liken it to the military, Joy. Generals get out, and you always hope generals are going to speak out, but they got a pension, they got a corporate seat, they got a good retirement, and they frankly don't want to fucking jeopardize that. And I think there are a lot of athletes that we're looking to say something, but they are pretty comfortable and they don't, want to risk it. But I do still look for those shining examples. And there's a lot of folks who also think your example is enough, right? Like let's take someone like Aaron Judge or Otani, who are, I think, so important for their decorum and their example. But you could also be Tiger Woods, where you're there for so long. And I think, like many people, I always wanted Tiger to say more. I wanted him to get involved. And he said, but I'm doing so much. I got to stay here. But you also see, Brittany Griner went to fucking jail in Russia, right? Like Caitlin Clark and others are picking their spots. And I guess what I'm asking for and I'm hoping for is that some of them are going to say, fuck it and jump in. Because there's that fear. We all have it. But because here's what's happening. Like Jay Feely is running as a Republican, the punter from the Giants, right? Tommy Tuberville is now a United States Senator. I said to somebody on the show recently, like when LeBron retires, how about getting him to run? I mean, like there has to be a more concerted recruiting effort, not just from, I don't think, the left, but I think from independents especially. I think independents are really well positioned to have athletes and people in sports media make that jump because I think they can win. I think they can win, and I think they can drive, the narrative in this country in a really important way, like almost nobody else can. Like, what the fuck qualified Tommy Tuberville to be a United States Senator? I call him, I've called him Senator Redneck because he is. He sounds like fucking Foghorn Leghorn, and he's the dumbest member of Congress. But he gets elected in Alabama, right?
Well,
so
I mean, we can get into the dynamics of like Republican, Democrats, like Republicans are going to vote for a log if they register as a Republican. And I don't say that as an insult. I say it as like their goal is to win. Democrats' goal is to make you feel good. And then if we can win while we feel good, bonus. But they're like, I don't have to like they want everything to be perfect, right? Where I would push back on this is I want actually politicians to be politicians. I don't want any more celebrity politicians. I want people who are genuinely locked into serving their constituents, being leaders, and their focus and goal is to do their goddamn job. I don't need I don't need another reality show host running the fucking country. And I've had this conversation actually, ironically, a couple times this week because we're talking about, I've always been able to predict which way the political sphere is gonna shift, which is why these just current elections this week are of no surprise to me whatsoever. Like 100% knew all that was gonna happen. The New York situation was the most easy to predict. Pendulum swing is happening, especially with the government shutdown. Like people are tired of being told to do things on behalf of wealthy people. Finally, it's breaking through to people like, hey, I don't know if I actually align with all of the policies of this person, but they're not telling me that I need to do this because a billionaire is telling me to do it. And finally, people are realizing like, yeah, I'm actually not going to be a billionaire. It's really fucking hard. If you don't have a family member that is going to give you $1 billion, you are likely not going to be a billionaire in this lifetime. So stop making choices that aid billionaires. And listen, I would love to make $1 billion. But you know what I won't mind doing on the way to my $1 billion, which is probably why I'll never be a billionaire? I'm going to pay it back. Like I'm going to pour into society because I believe that everyone should have an opportunity to live a full life. So I just want politicians to get back to fucking governing, running cities, running states, making decisions on behalf of the people. This whole circus that we have in politics right now, everything is about going viral. Everything is about trending. Everything is about being famous. I don't give a fuck I don't care. Do your job. It's so crazy to me. Like when the Trump thing happened the first time around and people were like, I just kind of like how he talks. What is he running on? What are the policies that he is saying he's going to implement?
The most important policy he ran on, which is the same one that Mom Donnie ran on, is fuck the system. Fuck the system, fuck the man. That's the populism and the grievance.
The first time. I got the first time, right? I didn't vote that way. Begrudgingly, we can get into Hillary another time on another episode. But what I fundamentally believe in is, of course, fuck the system. Of course. However, the systems are in place. So you can't, as much as we like to fantasize about, bringing in an axe and just swinging through all the fucking systems, it's small, incremental changes. Maybe if you can get it passed while you're in office. So we all just need to take a deep breath and just get back. Like some shit has to be serious,
I'm with you.
And this shit is serious.
Yeah, it is. All right, so let's do that. Let's take a deep breath. And we're going to go through what will kind of be like a 2-minute drill for the rest of the show because I want to keep us on your timeline. We touched on it earlier, but I just want to hit on one issue that I think is below the radar, which is the military won't participate in Veterans Day events in the NFL. Like, this is one of those things where the shutdown's happening, and I think this week especially, it's going to start to hit people where they feel it. Planes are going to stop flying, right? Military folks are not getting paid. They're shutting down places where people eat, SNAP benefits. But this is one of those ones that kind of crosses over. Like, you're going to have Veterans Day activities on the stage of the NFL, and the military's not going to participate. So it's going to be, no flyovers, none of all this shit. I think it's the irony of this is pretty deep, and it's not an Onion headline. Like, it's real life. And I'm just going to say shame on both sides for failing to solve this stupid, dangerous, and damaging shutdown. Don't let this fall below your radar because I think it is symbolically very big. Attention-wise, it may be very big. And it's the kind of thing that makes people think about the shutdown more than the fact that we're not paying all the civilians who work in the Pentagon who are supposed to keep us safe. we're fucking with your football now, people. And like, we're fucking with the airplanes. And now maybe you'll wake up a little bit. We talked about it a lot, but Joy, any quick thoughts on this issue?
Yeah, I mean, it's really sad. I mean, we've talked many times just as friends on veterans topics, and I loathe the propping up of veterans in the military for visual effect when it doesn't actually translate to support and rights and change for veterans and active military. So this is it's a real moment to remind everyone that, like, yeah, stop talking about the military when you don't actually give a fuck about the human beings that serve in our military. You don't care about the veterans that have served who are now struggling. Don't prop this up for a participation trophy. And then when shit hits the fan, it's like, oh, well, you know, like, it's hard to contextualize all of it. And I'm probably being a little sloppy, but it's disappointing. It's
No, I think
disappointing.
that's right. I think that's right.
Yeah, and again, it's sad. Like, it's affecting every area of our lives. Every corner of this country is being touched by this. And it, I think, is a reflection of really, really poor leadership.
Here, here. Leadership is the component that, can solve many problems and fuck them up. And I think we're going to see that, especially in the next couple of weeks. Maybe there's a silver lining. Like, I think I've been very critical of the NFL's relationship with the military. John McCain was very critical of it. I encourage everybody to check out his report about how the two were, unproductively commingled and how that was a bad thing for America. John McCain said that. So maybe not having the flyovers and not having that will be a reminder to people that there are other ways to get involved, and you can't just salute the flyover. Go to a fucking Veterans Day protest or march or activity, help out in a local area. And also maybe it'll take a little bit of Trump and Hegseth's power away from that moment, because they won't be able to have this backdrop of a stealth bomber going over. But there will be football this weekend. It is Football Friday. Friday football, we taking the stage. Joy Taylor's here for Football Friday. Hooray. I can think of nobody better that I would like to have here than you. So it's Football Friday. Some great games on the college side, some good games on the NFL side, and then we'll go to something good. Joy, I'm going to rattle it off. You're the expert in this area, but I feel like college football is amazing right now. I think the NFL is always reminding us that it's so, so good. A couple of games I want to pull out. BYU, number 7 at Texas Tech, number 8. The parity is what I keep coming back to. This is a fun one. Who are you going to pick in BYU, Texas Tech?
I think I'm going with Texas Tech. But yeah, the parity this year. What I love about this year is this is such a reminder that the fuddy-duds were so wrong about NIL and the college football playoff expansion. Like, sometimes, guys, it's okay to just make a change. Like, things change and it's okay. And now college football is fucking incredible. Like, the parity is so good. The teams that have risen to the top, who, maybe had a good year here or there, or like, have been consistently good teams, but not great, not in the conversation for the national championship, are now, like, there's such a long list of great teams. And yeah, it's still a little chaotic, but like, these teams could win the national championship. That's fucking incredible. Like, we wouldn't even be talking about anyone other than Bama, LSU, and fucking Georgia ever.
Who are not as dominant anymore, right? Like, it's amazing when Vanderbilt plays LSU.
Boy, Saban got out at the right time, huh? Saban said, not me, not me.
It's just like a really basic thing. When people can root for the underdogs and it's wide open, it's good for everybody. Like, even in my son's flag football league, they were like, we have so many teams, like the top 12 are going to make the playoffs. All the kids are excited. Everybody's excited. It's like, let's do that all the time. All right, let's keep going. This is a fun contrast. My little boy River's favorite team in the whole world, number 9, Oregon, is going into number 20, Iowa. A real clash of cultures in football. Like, the flashy Oregon team versus the gritty Midwestern Iowa team. We saw Oregon light it up at Rutgers a couple weeks ago. That was really fun. But I feel like Oregon, could be running into a tough one here. But I do think they'll win it. On the last one, I'm gonna go against your pick and say BYU against Texas Tech. I feel like BYU is always underrated and underappreciated, seems to deliver. But Oregon versus Iowa, I'm going to pick
No, okay.
I'm going to pick Oregon. What do you got? Oregon, Iowa.
The thing is, we're coming down to the stretch where of the season where the like a loss is going to take you out of the playoffs and like a real contention for the national championship. I think I'm going to go, I tend to go chalk in these situations, but I'm going to go Oregon, but I think this is going to be a very close game.
Yeah, I think for me, they used to say defense wins championships, but now it's quarterback play. I think that down the stretch, right? And Moore is a really fun quarterback. I saw this team up close, and when you see a team up close, you can see a lot. Like this preseason, my sons and I and my wife went to see Army practice. And if you've never seen Army practice football, it's pretty fucking amazing. And then we went to watch the Jets. And I walked out of Jets training camp with all due respect to your amazing nephew who's crushing it. And I said to my brother, who's a Jets fan, I'm like, they're going to have a rough year. Like, I just watched them run practice, and it seemed kind of fucked up, and the energy was off. And, only your nephew was hurt at the time, so he wasn't there. But Garrett Wilson was like one of the few guys that came out to sign autographs. And I just felt it, and I'm like, they're going to have a rough year. And you saw that. But let's talk about a related culture. Navy, 7-1. Navy's always quietly 7-1, going into Notre Dame. That's at 10, 6-2. This is always a fun matchup, right? I feel like Navy and Army always play Notre Dame hard. What do you think about this one?
I could see an upset. I could go with Navy here.
Yeah. I can't root for Navy, so I'm going Notre Dame.
Fair. That's fair.
I feel like, by the way, if you didn't see the highlights from
this. But also, I'm biased. Like, being a Miami fan, I can't choose Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, if you didn't see the highlights from Air Force Army last week, it was awesome. I urge you, anytime the service academies are playing, check it out. I mean, bucket list. If you've never been to Army Navy as a game, go.
I need to do that.
All right, there's some good NFL games.
Go next year.
There's some good NFL games. Rams versus Niners, 6-3. Niners hosting 6-2 Rams. 5-3 Steelers at the 6-3 Chargers. 6-2 Eagles at the 5-2-1. I think fucking ties should be outlawed if Congress wants to do something to help sports. At the Packers. It feels like
I hate ties.
Right?
Ugh.
It feels like the California teams are quietly really good. The Rams, the Niners, and the Chargers. Let's just rip through them, Joy. Rams at Niners. I'm going to take the Rams on this one. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm going with the Rams also. I'm a Sean McVay zealot, though, and I've been on the Rams for a couple years now. Like, just finally people are, like, paying attention to the Rams again.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're just always so well coached. Puka's unbelievable. Like, I'm going with the Rams.
And what's more fun to say than Puka Nacua, right? Like, my little 6-year-old literally walks around and goes, I'm Puka Nacua, I'm Puka Nacua. It's like for little kids.
Like, the Niners are well coached too before everyone starts freaking out. But, like, I will say, though, the Niners, this division matchup tends to go differently during the regular season than it does in the postseason. So just keep that in mind if you're putting any money on this.
I'm with you on that. I think the Rams have quietly built that culture out there. I feel like on the East Coast, they don't see it as much. Niners have had so many injuries.
They took that down year after the Super Bowl, and everyone started freaking out that it was, like, over. And then, Sean McVay threatened to retire, and of course he was not retiring. He was getting another contract. But yeah, I mean, everyone's paying attention to the Rams again, which is good.
George Kittle's back. That's got my family and my boys really excited. George Kittle's just a wild man that I like to watch. Also a big supporter of veterans, like a lot of guys in the NFL and their families have been. Joy, you and I first met, I think, when you were at a veterans event many, many years ago. All right, Steelers at Chargers. I think I'm taking the Chargers here. I think they're quietly going to just keep knocking stuff out. What do you think?
I'm going with the Steelers. I'm originally a Steelers fan. I don't trust the Chargers. I don't trust them yet. I'm not there.
I defer to you. Okay, this is, I guess, the big game. Eagles, Packers. They're both kind of, I think, again, quietly chugging along. A lot of parity in the NFL again. Eagles at Packers. I'm going with the Packers at home. I feel like the Packers are sneaky good, but it could be a clash. It could be one of those ones that, like, goes into overtime or is really close. But what do you think?
I like the Eagles here. I think the Packers are still. They're quietly good. I thought they would be better than they were this year, than they've been. I think the Eagles are going to win this one.
Like, as it's shaping up right now, like, who do you see on both sides as the favorites to make the Super Bowl? We didn't talk about the Chiefs. We didn't talk about other teams that are just always reliable. What are you thinking, AFC and NFC front runners right now?
I mean, is anyone like really good? You know, I'm like watching Denver and like they don't score points until the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. So yeah, they're 8-2, but like I don't. Well, I think in postseason terms, right? Like regular season to me and postseason are just not the same thing. And so there's very few teams that I trust, and I just don't know if I trust anybody right now. Like Kansas City, sure, because like why wouldn't you? They've been mid in the regular season and won the Super Bowl. They've been great in the regular season and won the Super Bowl. Like they're proven. Philly also obviously coming off of a Super Bowl championship. Someone like the Rams, you know, like these are teams that I feel more comfortable with, but all beatable. And like Indy, like come on. Look, they've had an incredible season. They're like kudos. Nobody saw this coming, right? Certainly not me. If you saw this coming with the Colts, like good on you, because I did not trust this. But I like the postseason, I just don't feel like anybody is really, really great this year. Everyone feels beatable. And I know like that sounds kind of silly because it's like one game and you can get knocked out of the playoffs. I get it. But to me, there's nobody that I'm like sticking my flag in right now, even though there have been teams that have like are having really great seasons. Like even Pittsburgh, Aaron Rodgers is surprisingly having a really good season, at least especially to me. Like I thought this was going to be the year that Mike Tomlin had a losing season. Like I did not think that Aaron was going to bounce back this way. But like they've had games where I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So
Mhm.
I don't know that anybody has really wowed me this year in a way that
I'm
I
with you
feel
on
like can translate to the postseason.
I'm with you on that, and I always go back to quarterback play. Like, yeah, the Broncos have been where they are because Bo Nix is fucking playing great, right? I mean, and there's been Daniel Jones. To all you Indy fans, I hope it lasts, but there's a very different Daniel Jones that we saw in the playoffs. So maybe that'll last. But I always go back to the reliable quarterbacks that, if they can stay healthy, know how to win. And you look at Mahomes, you look at Josh Allen. Like, if I have to put money on somebody, I'm putting it on those quarterbacks that know how to perform in the big moments. And I say this to my boys who are both playing quarterback this year, like making good decisions, right? Like
Mm.
my 6-year-old in a game last week pulled the ball down, knew the down and distance, and ran for it, right? And stuck, like 6-year-old sticking his arm out for the first down. I'm like, dude, that's why I want my kids to play quarterback, because it teaches them decision making. And
Yeah.
also, frankly, I tell my wife, I'm like, when my 6-year-old gets lit up by 8-year-olds and he's crying, his nose is bleeding, I'm like, you know what? Like, he's going to know that he can handle adversity in life. And for kids in America, that might be as close to combat as it gets, right? We're not in Ukraine. So I do think that when it comes down to it, quarterback play is going to be key.
Well, also
All right,
there's
let me,
just
let
been
me take,
so
please.
many injuries this year. I forget which game it was I was watching. I'm like, are we on like the fifth backup that's in this window? Like it's all backups. Lamar's been hurt. You got Burrow out. Like it's been a
Jaden Daniels, right? Yeah.
yeah, like it's been a crazy year for injuries too.
Yeah, I mean, I fully expect. I've said this all along that I love Jackson Dart, but he's reckless with his body, and I think there's a very real situation where Jameis is going to be our quarterback at the end of the year, and that's going to be fun. That'll give us fun, right? We'll have Jameis walking around New York City as our starting quarterback, and
Wait,
maybe
so you're a
that'll be the
Giants?
fun. I am
Oh,
is
okay.
is brutal. And look,
How did you suddenly put the Jets there?
If Scadaboo ran for mayor, he would have beaten Mamdani and Cuomo and everybody, because this kid has brought an energy to the city. The only thing I can compare it to, Joy, is Linsanity. Like, that's kind of what
Wow,
it,
he's sweeping it up like that. He's so
dude.
sweet. Like he's so likable.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's also the racial component. Like, we haven't talked about that in a while, but people keep saying, the exciting whites, Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo. But, like, it's
The exciting whites.
yeah, that's what haven't you seen the meme of like Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo? Yeah, I mean, race is always the part that people don't want to talk about out loud. But Cam Scadaboo is also just a fucking beast. And our Halloween costume was almost my little guy as Cam Scadaboo, my big guy as Jackson Dart, and me as Brian Dable. Um, yeah,
The
your
exciting
Halloween
whites. The
costume,
exciting
your
whites
Halloween
is like
costume your Halloween costume, I mean, the patriarchy Punisher, which was like one of the more creative ones that I saw out there.
you know what? I have if you followed me for any amount of time, then you know I'm fully like just leaning in to I'm an OG troll. So I'm definitely leaning in right now. And yeah, I was like, I'm going to get canceled for this, but I'm going as a dominatrix this year, and we're just going to let the pieces fall where they may. But it was fun. Yeah.
I mean, I liked it because I like Joy gives no fucks. Joy's doing what Joy wants to do, and
It
that's
was
been
a
kind of one
high
of your
level of giving no fuckery for sure. For
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I mean, last night Hegseth was at this stupid Patriot Awards for Fox, and he's like, FAFO, like fuck around and find out. But like they're so fucking annoying, they can't even say fuck around and find out. They say FAFO. It's like go Brandon. It's this stupid coded shit. But Joy Taylor gives no fucks. But let's go to my favorite segment of every show. It's Friday. We're gonna end with something good.
Something good, oh, something sweet. Feel the fire, feel the
I'm going to come to you in a second, Joy. I got something good. It's football related. It's Amherst Williams Week, which means nothing except to a small network of elite college people, largely in New England. But I played football at Amherst. It was a really defining experience, helped change my life. It is the 115th meeting of the biggest little game in America. They've been playing since 1884. Williams has a 5-3 record. Third overall in the NESCAC, the Powerhouse Football Conference, and Amherst is 4-4, fifth in the conference. They play very few games, if you haven't noticed. It's 12 p.m. tomorrow at Amherst. It's homecoming. It's just really, here's why I love it, Joy, and why I think it's good is because it's pure. None of these kids are going anywhere. It's D3 football. It's communities. It's inspiring. For many of these kids, it's the last game they'll ever play. I have my football helmet back here that I have from my senior year. I still whip it out every year. I got my jersey, which I think I wore last time you were on the show. I think you'll appreciate the number more than anybody, right? It's 99, and I wore it as a tight end. I was a defensive lineman. And then when I switched over, I'm like, can I keep 99? Back then, they were like, I don't think you can. I was like, no, you can. 99's eligible. So I kept it. Anyway, something good. Amherst Williams. You can watch it online. You can look for the highlights. If you want an alternative to the big money, flashy sports, Amherst Williams is kind of as pure as it gets. That's my something good. Joy, over to you. What do you got? What's something good?
I wish I had a more specific one. Next time I'm on, remind me to prepare one. But in thinking about what I wanted to say, a lot of people are struggling. And I saw this year in LA. California we get our hate from everywhere in the country, which is, especially LA. Living here, it's fair. Like, we live in a bubble. But we had a rough year out here. The fires were horrific. And we really got to see like the city of Los Angeles, not Hollywood, but the city of Los Angeles really come together and like support each other in a real community way. And I feel like that's happening right now across the country with the shutdown, with SNAP benefits. So many restaurants, so many local places, so many people are giving and doing what the politicians are supposed to be doing but aren't doing, which is helping our neighbors. Just speaking on how ridiculous it is that we, as powerful as a country as we are, as powerful of a military we are, as big as our brand is the US of A, that we have this many people that have food insecurity. Like maybe you can't buy a house. Okay, the economy comes and shifts, but you can't feed your family in the US while you work a job is really crazy. And it is always heartwarming for me to see people give and like help their neighbors. And so many restaurants, so many people, so many organizations, so many small businesses are really like putting themselves out there to offer aid and help. And I think that's, in this vortex of like hate and algorithms and all the things that we've talked about today, a little ray of hope that, like we still got each other in a lot of ways. And that at the end of the day, we all are just like trying to make it. And so I like seeing that. It's like very encouraging to me to see so many people not be like stepping on the necks of their neighbors and actually giving back. So that's my something good.
That is something good. Hell yes. And you are something good. You folks may not know how much you give back, but you care a lot about a lot of causes and you get involved and you support. And again, I want to come back to what I think is a really courage driven, brave voice that you've been through so many different issues for so many years. And just, giving people an example of what it's like to be authentically you, right? To be yourself, to give no fucks in a positive way. and to just speak truth to power, throw punches, and just keep at it. And you're inspiring to so many people, and your voice is, I think, more important now than ever. I appreciate your dynamism, your courage, your friendship, and most of all for coming back here today. I hope you'll come back and we can do it again soon.
Thank you for having me. It's always good to chat. Shout out to Mason Taylor on the Jets. We mentioned him a lot today. So I'm really, really proud of him. And tell your little one that I appreciate him, supporting the Jets this year. And yeah, it's, everyone keep your head up, be kind to each other, and I'm back anytime. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, the Jets are, your nephew is like a bright spot on a tough year, and he carries himself well, and he's a great role model. Celebrate him tremendously. And it's an example of how there are bright spots out there in shitty situations, and we're going to keep bringing light to it. Thank you, Joy Taylor. Folks, we are daily now. We had lots of media hits this week with News Nation, MSNBC, the elections, but we're daily now. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you to all of our guests this week, Jim Vanderhei, Sammy Sage, John Updike, Sebastian Younger, especially Joy Taylor, who you should follow on every social media platform and support everything that she does. Next week is Veterans Day, Veterans Week. We got General Mark Hertling. Henry Rollins is coming back. We might have Stephanie Rule, other surprises in a very, very important week. We're going to bring you what Veterans Day, what America, and what culture, I think, is really all about. We're going to also talk to some independent vets that won their election in the next couple weeks. Follow Independent Americans everywhere. Get the merch, join our Patreon community, and know that on this Friday, America's more divided than ever, but we at Independent Americans are working hard to change that. And especially if you're the 50% of Americans who are independent, politically homeless, or just independent curious, this is your show. Country over party, people over politics, light over heat, busting up the status quo and fueling a new movement. I hope you liked this episode with Joy. If you did, share it far and wide. Invite others to declare their independence, and join us especially for Football Fridays. And stay vigilant, my friends, because eternal vigilance is the price of freedom, and hope is the oxygen of democracy. And know you're not alone in your vigilance, especially in times like this. We're all vigilant, and we're all in this together. Stay vigilant, America. My thanks again to Joy Taylor. And go Amherst! Beat Williams!
Powered by Righteous Media.